Let's see, what would be the craziest chaos scenario that could happen in college football this year? Let's find out. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. This channel is home of at least one college football video every single day. And when college basketball starts getting ramped up during conference play, I'll do college basketball videos as well. Now, I've talked about this subject a lot, the chaos that's going on in 2021 in the college football season. There's a lot of it. But it got me to thinking, what's the craziest chaos that could happen for the rest of the 2021 college football season? And I came up with a doozy. This chaos is so complex that I had to actually write it down. I confused myself at times, but I did come up with one heck of a chaos scenario. Here we go. We'll actually start in a non-Power 5 conference, the AAC, because Cincinnati does have a shot to get into the playoffs. So they need to be involved in this chaos. So in the AAC, let's say Houston loses at Memphis but beats Cincinnati in the AAC championship game. I'll also say that Cincinnati wins out but loses to Houston in the AAC championship game. So we'd have an 11-2 Houston that's an AAC champion. Their two losses were to Texas Tech and Memphis. And Cincinnati would be 12-1 but only the AAC runner-up. All right, let's move on to the Power 5 conferences. First up, the ACC. In the ACC Atlantic, for Wake Forest, what if Wake Forest loses to NC State and Clemson, and they finish the season 9-3? NC State beats Wake Forest, but loses to North Carolina. They finish the season 9-3. Clemson wins out. They finish 9-3. So the three losses for Wake Forest would be North Carolina, NC State, and Clemson. Now, I'm only counting conference losses because that's what determines the rankings in each conference. Don't count non-conference losses or wins. So for NC State, their two losses would be to Miami of Florida and North Carolina. Clemson's two losses would be NC State and Pitt. So NC State would actually win the ACC Atlantic. Now, for the Coastal, let's say Pitt loses to Virginia but beats Syracuse. They would finish the season 9-3. And what if Virginia wins out? They would finish the season 9-3. Even Miami and Florida, who's in third place, they win out, they finish 8-4. That's not a bad season. So you'd have a 9-3 Pitt, a 9-3 Virginia, and an 8-4 Miami. In that scenario, Virginia wins the Coastal because Pitt's losses in the ACC would be to Miami of Florida and Virginia. Virginia's losses in the ACC would be to North Carolina and Wake Forest, and the Hurricanes' losses in the ACC would be to Virginia and North Carolina. So the tiebreaker would definitely come into effect. Virginia wins the tiebreaker in this scenario. And we'll say NC State beats Virginia in the ACC championship. You'd have a 10-3 NC State, who's the ACC champs, and a 9-4 Virginia, who's the runner-up in the ACC. Don't forget to check out my good friends at tristatewoodsketch.com. All you have to do is send them the picture, and they'll transfer it on the wood. They do family photos, couples photos, logos of your favorite team, all shapes and sizes. Right now, he's running a buy one, get one free special if you mention that Golden Blue Dude sent you. Next up, the Big 12. Yeah, there's some chaos that could happen in the Big 12. First off, Oklahoma is about to go through their toughest three-game stretch of the season. And what if Oklahoma loses at Baylor and at Oklahoma State? That would put them at 10-2. Let's say Oklahoma State wins out. That would put them at 11-1. Baylor wins out. That would put them at 10-2, which means Iowa State would lose to Oklahoma and they would finish the season 8-4. In this scenario, Baylor and Oklahoma State would make the Big 12 championship game. So let's say Baylor beats Oklahoma State. So you'd have an 11-2 Baylor, who's the Big 12 champs, and Oklahoma State, who's also 11-2, but they're the Big 12 runner-up. And if you think this is a lot of chaos, just wait. Just wait. I got more for you. On to the Pac-12. Pac-12 North, Oregon. I think we can all agree that Oregon is going to win the Pac-12 North, right? Well, what if they lose at Utah, but they still beat Washington State and Oregon State? Well, they would be 10-2. Now, in the Pac-12 South, Utah and Arizona State, those are the only two teams that have a shot of winning the South. And let's say Utah wins out. That would put them at 9-3. Arizona State wins out. They're 9-3. Well, in that scenario, Oregon would play Utah again, but this time for the Pac-12 championship. And let's say Utah beats Oregon again in the Pac-12 championship game. We'd have a 10-3 Utah, who's the Pac-12 champs, and a 10-3 Oregon, who's the Pac-12 runner-up. Yeah, That's pretty significant right there. But here's where things get really crazy. Let's go on over to the Big Ten. First up, the Big Ten East. First, Ohio State. Let's say Ohio State loses to Purdue, but beats Michigan and Michigan State. So they finish the regular season 10-2. And Michigan State loses at Ohio State, but they do beat Maryland and Penn State. So Michigan State finishes the season 10-2. In Michigan, they lose to Ohio State, but they also beat Maryland and Penn State. They finished the regular season 10-2. So Ohio State's conference loss would be to Purdue. Michigan State's conference losses would be to Purdue and Ohio State. And Michigan's conference losses would be to Michigan State and Ohio State. So in that scenario, Ohio State wins the Big Ten East. Now for the Big Ten West. This one was a tough one, guys. I'm going to say Wisconsin loses at Minnesota, but they do beat Northwestern and Nebraska. So they finish the season 8-4. Minnesota, they lose at Iowa, but they beat Indiana and Wisconsin. They finish the season 8-4. Purdue, they went out. They finished the season 9-3. Iowa, they lose to Illinois, which isn't crazy. Illinois went on the road and beat Penn State. And Minnesota, that's not completely rational to think about. So Iowa loses to Illinois, but beats Minnesota and Nebraska. So they finish the season 9-3. In that scenario, Purdue wins the tiebreaker. They go on to the Big Ten championship game. Because Wisconsin's conference losses would be to Penn State, Michigan, and Minnesota. Minnesota's conference losses would be Ohio State, Illinois, and Iowa. Purdue's conference losses would be only 2, Minnesota and Wisconsin. And then, of course, Iowa's conference losses would be Purdue, Wisconsin, and Illinois. That's why Purdue would win the Big Ten West in this scenario. So, in the Big Ten championship game, Purdue versus Ohio State. Purdue beats Ohio State again. So we'd have a 10-3 Purdue, who's the Big Ten champs, and a 10-3 Ohio State, who's the Big Ten runner-up. Hey, don't forget about my score prediction contest for my Patreon members. Every single week I pick out one game and a tiebreaker game and have my Patreon members guess the score. And whoever gets the closest to the score is $20 every single week. And you can win as many times as you want. Just ask Paul Riggs, one of my Patreon members. He won for the 4th time this past week. This week's score prediction game is going to be number 8 Oklahoma at number 13 Baylor. And the tiebreaker game is going to be number 16 NC State at number 12 Wake Forest. So go join my Patreon page and send me your score prediction. Blue members get 1 guest prediction per week. Gold members get 2 guest predictions per week. And champion members get 4 guest predictions per week. And finally, the SEC. Yeah, it can get crazy in the SEC as well. Starting in the SEC East, Georgia's going to win the East. There's no mathematical possibility for any other team besides Georgia to win the East. But let's say Georgia goes on the road and does get upset by Tennessee, and they finish the regular season 11-1. In the West, Alabama. Let's say Alabama loses to Auburn and Arkansas. They would finish the regular season 9-3. Texas A&M, they lose at Ole Miss, but win the other 2 games. They finish the season 9-3. Let's say Auburn wins out. They finish the season 9-3. Ole Miss, they win out. They finish the season 10-2. Even Arkansas can win out in this scenario, and they finish the season 9-3. So Alabama's conference losses would be Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Auburn. Texas A&M's conference losses would be Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. Auburn's conference losses would be to Georgia and Texas A&M, just 2. Ole Miss conference losses, Alabama and Auburn. Then, of course, Arkansas conference losses, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn. In this scenario, Auburn would win the SEC West because of the tiebreaker over Ole Miss. So we have Auburn versus Georgia in the SEC championship game. Let's say the unthinkable happens again and Auburn upsets Georgia in the SEC championship game. We'd have a 10-3 Auburn, who's the SEC champs, and an 11-2 Georgia, who's the SEC runner-up. Oh, and one more thing. I didn't forget about you, Notre Dame. Let's say Notre Dame loses at Virginia and at Stanford. Notre Dame finishes the season 9-3. So if this extreme chaos were to happen, here's the list of teams you'd have to choose from to put into the playoffs. You ready? Here we go. Houston, 11-2, AAC champs. Cincinnati, 12-1, AAC runner-up. Wake Forest, 9-3. 3rd in the ACC. Clemson, also 9-3. ACC Atlantic runner-up. Pitt, also 9-3. ACC Coastal runner-up. Virginia, 9-4. ACC Coastal Division champs, but ACC runner-up. NC State, 10-3, ACC champs. Oklahoma, 10-2, 3rd in the Big 12. Oklahoma State, 11-2, Big 12 runner-up. Baylor, 11-2, Big 12 champs. Arizona State, 9-3, Pac-12 South runner-up. Oregon, 10-3, Pac-12 North Division champs, Pac-12 runner-up. Utah, 10-3, Pac-12 champs. Michigan, 10-2, Big Ten East, 3rd place. Michigan State, 10-2, Big Ten East runner-up. Wisconsin, 8-4, Big Ten West, 4th place. Minnesota, 8-4, Big Ten West, 3rd place. Iowa, 9-3, Big Ten West runner-up. Ohio State, 10-3, Big Ten East division champs, Big Ten runner-up. Purdue, 10-3, Big Ten champs. Arkansas, 9-3, SEC West, 5th place. Texas A&M, also 9-3, SEC West, 4th place. Alabama, also 9-3, SEC West, 3rd place. Ole Miss, 10-2, SEC West runner-up. Georgia, 11-2, SEC East division champs, SEC runner-up. Auburn, 10-3, SEC champs. And oh yeah, Notre Dame, 9-3. So there's your list. If total chaos happens, who gets into the top 4? Good luck with that. That would be amazing to see, though. I would love to see that. Especially if you're a fan of a team that has no chance of making the playoffs. West Virginia, we're just trying to get to a bowl. So for me, seeing total chaos like that, and I'd be getting my popcorn, I'd be getting my drinks, I'd be putting my tombstone pizza in the oven. This is an extreme case of chaos. And even if that doesn't happen, a lot of chaos has happened. And some of this chaos could happen and probably will happen. So buckle up, folks. These last 3 games in the regular season are going to get crazy. That's one thing I'm sure of. Also, don't forget about my Super Chat contest. That's right, I do contests all the time. Now, my Super Chat contest, that's for my live shows. My live shows are on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Saturdays at 9 p.m. And I do a live show for the college football rankings when they come out. For my Super Chat contest, every $5 you donate through the Super Chat equals 1 entry to win a full-size helmet of the team of your choice. And also a prize worth up to $50 from TriStateWhisketch.com. That prize is sponsored by one of my best supporters, Jeff Grimm. Drawing for that contest is going to be on November the 17th. That's my Wednesday live show. That show will start at 7 p.m. I'll give people a chance to get a last-second entry in if they want to. Then we'll draw the winner live on that show. And by the way, here are all the people that are entered into that Super Chat contest so far. Anthony Zappin with a $5 Super Chat, 1 entry. Louis Papp, $100 Super Chat, 20 entries. Ray Finkel's a $20 Super Chat, 4 entries. Andre King, $5 Super Chat, 1 entry. Vandy Dandy, $5 Super Chat, 1 entry. Paul Riggs, $50 Super Chat, 10 entries. Sea Dog, $10 Super Chat, 2 entries. Huffer Billy Paul, $40 Super Chat, 8 entries. John Park, $25 Super Chat, 5 entries. True Seminole, $20 Super Chat, 4 entries. Adam Job, $15 Super Chat, 3 entries. Rhino, $100 Super Chat, 20 entries. Boxcar Pornstar, $10 Super Chat, 2 entries. Raj, $50 PayPal, 10 entries. John Howell, $5 Super Chat, 1 entry. And Joe Rogan, $5 Super Chat, 1 entry. Hey, that's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.